So now let's talk about dividend theories. The earnings available to the shareholders are equal to dividends plus retained earnings. Dividend decision is taken by the board of directors of the company and recommended in formal approval by the shareholders in the annual general body meeting. So this dividend decision plays a major role as far as companies as well as investors' point of view. So why? Because the investors as well as the other stakeholders, they expect a dividend from the companies at the end of the financial year. See, this dividend decision, why it's important? Like for example, see, when company announces a dividend or if it declares a dividend, see, immediately it has an impact on the share price. So this was proved and disproved by many of the authors as well as the experts in the financial field. See, from the net earnings of the company, the finance manager of the company has to take a decision how much to be given as a dividend and how much to retain for the future in the form of a retained earnings. This decision is very, very important. For example, if suppose company earns some 10 crore rupee as a profit, net profit of the particular year. From that net profit, how much should be distributed as a dividend and how much percentage should be retained by the company. That is called as the dividend decision. For example, in 10 crore, suppose if company wants to give us 60% as a dividend, then the 60% we call that as dividend payout ratio. Balance 40% they want to retain for the future for investment and other aspects. That 40% we call it as retention ratio. So in terms of percentages, we call it as we call it as dividend payout ratio, and retained earnings will be called as in terms of percentage it's called as a retention ratio. In terms of rupees, if you see, for example, 10 crore is the net profit. In that, for example, if 60% is dividend, so 60% in 10 crore is 6 crore. So which means this 6 crore is nothing but the total dividend paid by the company during that particular year. So in terms of percentage, that is 60% is the dividend payout ratio. In terms of rupees, it is nothing but the total dividend paid by the company to all the shareholders depending upon the number of shares that is held by the shareholders. The remaining 40%, that is 4 crores from out of 10 crore, that is nothing but the company wants to use it for in future in the form of reserves and surplus. It is called as reserves and surplus or retained earnings. All these things can be found out in what you call as the balance sheet. Left hand side of the balance sheet, that is the liability. Under the long term liability, under the equity, we can find out all these values. So now the next thing is theories of dividend. There are two categories of dividend theories which are very popular. So now we see the dividend relevance theory as well as dividend irrelevance theory. So in the name itself is that dividend relevance theory means dividend is related to the market value of the share or market price of the share. When company announces a dividend, depending upon the dividend, it changes, the market value of the share also changes. That is dividend relevant theory. That is dividend is related to the market price of share. It either increases or decreases the shareholders' wealth. That is dividend relevance theory. It has been proposed and proved by Walter model as well as Gordon model. The two models, famous models, as far as dividend relevance theory is concerned. Dividend irrelevance theory, in the name itself, it suggests that there is no relationship between dividend as well as market value of share. Whatever may be the dividend announced by the company or declared by the company, that does not affect the shareholders' wealth or market price of share. There is no relationship between dividend as well as what you call it as the market price of share or shareholders' wealth. That was proved by MM hypothesis as well as residual theory is concerned. First, we'll see one by one. First, we'll go ahead with these are all the theories, theories of dividend policy, irrelevance theory, under that residual theory as well as Modigliani and Miller approach. So MM means Modigliani and Miller approach, and relevance theory is Walter's model as well as Gordon's model. So now this is Walter's model. So in the name itself, it suggests Walter's model is nothing but there is a relevance or a relationship between dividend decision as well as the market price of share. So that is nothing but the relevant theory, and this Walter model has got certain assumptions. Okay, without any assumptions, no theory can be developed. And how this can be developed is here, as per the assumption is concerned, the R value and K value, that is the return what the companies expect as well as the required rate of return. That is cost of capital, all remains constant. And as far as the formula is concerned, how to calculate what you call it as the price of the share using Walter's model is P P0 equal to or P1 equal to dividend plus EPS minus dividend into R by K the whole divided by K. So which means the P is nothing but the share price what we want to find out using Walter's model. Then DAV is nothing but dividend per share. EPS means earnings per share. And R we call it as in different names it may be called it may be rate of return or internal rate of return or productivity of retained earnings. So these are all some of the names for R. So then K is nothing but it may be called as a cost of capital or what do you call it as a required rate of return, or we may be calling this as yield to maturity or capitalization rate or discount rate. These are all the different names for K. So in depending upon the type of problem, the name will change. Okay, for example, in some problem it may be given as cost of capital and some other problem it may be given as capitalization rate. It is nothing but it is the cost, the required rate of return from the particular what do you call as investments. So that is nothing but the K value. So here the formula is given P equal to dividend plus EPS minus dividend into R by K the whole divided by K. That is the formula through which we can calculate the price of the share using Walter's model. So now what we need to know is, see actually like Walter as well as Gordon, they have assumed the three situations. That is, if R value is greater than K value, if R value, that is R is nothing but rate of return or internal rate of return. If R value is greater than K value, we call that type of companies as a growth firm. So that type of companies we call it as a growth firm. In that case, the optimum payout ratio means the best payout ratio is 0. So which means what is a growing firm? They need to retain everything and that should be reinvest. That is plowing back of the plowing back of the profits. Whatever the company gets as a net profit should be retained by the company and should be reinvested again, plowing back the profits again in the company for the further development of the growth of the company. So in that case, dividend should be avoided. That is the optimum. That is the best payout ratio is 0, which means the entire 100% they want to retain. Whereas in case of R equal to K, that is return is also equal to the cost. That is break even point. Both are same. In that case, there is no concept of optimum payout ratio because return as well as the cost both are same. The next one is R less than K. So which means return is less than the cost. Whatever company receives in the form of a return is less than the cost, which means there is a declining form. The company is in like it's going towards in the declining state. So in that case, in order to satisfy the shareholders, the company should pay 100% dividend. Optimum payout ratio is 100%. They are supposed to pay 100% dividend. So then only the shareholders will get satisfied and more investments will come into the company. So because of that, the company can survive and they can move from declining state to again normal state and then to growth state. So this is about Walter's model. So, okay. So next we'll see about how to calculate the price of the share using the Walter model. So this is the formula through which we can calculate the price of the share using Walter model. P0 equal to dividend plus EPS minus dividend into R by K the whole divided by K. So now this is the formula. Now we'll check what are the data that is given in the problem. A company has a EPS of rupees 15. The market rate of discount applicable to a company is 12.5. That is discount rate. So EPS is given 15. Then discount rate. Discount rate is nothing but the what do you call it as the required rate of return or cost of capital. That is K value. So that is given as 12.5%. Retained earnings can be reinvested at IRR of 10%, which means internal rate of return. R value is given as 10%. The company is paying rupees 5 as a dividend. The company is paying the 5 as a dividend. Dividend per share is 5. So now as per the formula, the dividend DIV is given, dividend per share is 5, then EPS is 15, then R value, the rate of return or internal rate of return is 10%, and the K value, that is cost of capital or discount rate is 12.5%. So all the values are given. And before that, let us check the assumptions of the conditions of Walter model. As per the Walter model, R equal to K or greater than K or less than K. Now as per this one, R equal to 10%, whereas K equal to 12.5, which means R is less than what you call as a K. That is return is less than the cost. So which means it's a declining form. This is a declining form. So in that case, the optimum payout ratio should be 100. The optimum payout ratio should be 100. So now we'll check what you called as the share price of the company as per this particular data that is given in the problem. P0, the market price of share, P equal to dividend. Dividend is 5. So which means the dividend 5 plus EPS minus dividend. EPS is 15. 15 minus dividend again 5 into R by K. R value is 0.10 and K value is 0.125. Because it's given in percentage, we have to convert. So which means that is R value 0.10 divided by then the K value 0.125. So if you simply divide the whole divided by 0.125 again K. So which means instead of dividend the 5 plus EPS minus 5 EPS minus dividend will come around that is 15 minus 5 will come around 10 into R by K, which means 0.10 divided by 0.125, the whole divided by 0.125. So if you simplify this one, you will be getting the values of 104. 104 rupees we will be getting as a what you call as the share price of the company as per this model is concerned.